me tell you about Legend Seeker and how you can support its development while getting some awesome perks. By subscribing to our Legendary tier on YouTube or becoming a paid member on our Discord or Patreon, you'll get early access to all Legend Seeker lore and mechanics. This means you'll be among the first to dive into the world of Legend Seeker and give direct feedback that will help shape the game. But that's not all. Supporters will also be the first to playtest the system and will get exclusive invites to private streams where we discuss the game in detail. Your input will play a huge role in making Legend Seeker the best that it can be. Now, for those of you who love watching our tabletop role-playing game shows, supporting Legend Seeker comes with some fun bonuses for the casts. Here's how it works. If you are a Copper or Common member on Discord or Patreon, you can give a $20 benefit to a player of your choice. Silver and Uncommon members can give 2 benefits to 2 players of your choice. If you go the YouTube route, you can give a $50 benefit to a player of your choice. And for the ultimate support, Gold and Mythic members on Discord and Patreon give a $20 benefit to 3 players of your choice. You can choose from all casts across Moonskull. Every bit of support goes directly towards making Legend Seeker a reality. It helps fund the art, writing, editing, and eventual publishing of the game. So, if you want to be a part of this journey and support our shows, join our Legendary tier on YouTube or become a member on Discord or Patreon. We couldn't do it without you, and we're excited to build Legend Seeker together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the game. Hello, you Chad bastards. Let's see if this is even working. It is. Wonderful. Welcome to a little 4th of July. Oh, God. I'm hearing myself somewhere. Where am I? Oh, I see where. Okay. A little 4th of July Legend Seeker special stream. That intro doesn't last as long as you think it does. No. I knew what was going on with the intro. I was trying to fix something. I figured you guys could deal with a black screen for just a little tiny bit. But yeah, we're gonna hang out and basically we were gonna do Strange Aeons, but people are out celebrating, doing parties, both on the viewer side and the cast side, and I just kind of decided, well, everything was sort of in the air and jumbled. I was just going to call it and maybe hang out with you guys for a little bit. Okay. I almost fell for that. But yeah, so I don't know. I figured I'd give you guys a chance to ask questions about Legend Seeker and kind of let you guys know that we got some cool stuff coming up for it, what we've been working on. As you know, the team has expanded quite a bit from when I started this thing. It's not just me anymore. We've got Frost and we've got Moss on board doing things. So it's really cool. I know I haven't really got to show my face a lot on here. So I thought I would kind of dual stream between Moonskull and Legend Seeker today and encourage you, if you are a Moonskull viewer and you enjoy watching our tabletop shows and you like what we bring to the table, you may have heard me mention a few times that I am making a tabletop role-playing game myself for you guys called Legend Seeker. And you might not know, I have a YouTube channel for that. So we're dual streaming to that right now. And we're trying to get our watch hours over there. So if you would be interested in tuning in over there and watching our Legend Seeker stuff, that would be fantastic. We're going to be bringing a lot more material to that here soon. So not only will you have Frost written, with Frost writing his lore for you every Tuesday and Thursday, you're going to have some episodes of just me writing some stuff, some episodes of me and Frost and maybe Moss or something, kind of mixing it up. bouncing ideas off each other and kind of brainstorming. And then Moss is even pondering, though he hasn't concretely decided, he's writing a starter adventure. So he's pondering kind of writing that on stream and just kind of talking with you guys and what have you. Oh, good luck, Fantastic Sarcastic. General rule for all women, that's never going to happen. If you figure out the answer, if you figure out the miracle solution to get a woman to do such a thing, let me know. Gino says, WTF, Chrysanthia lied to us. She said it'd be fun. No neck brace, no full body cast, not even a broke big toe. Well, no, that's true. That's true. I don't have a broken toe. I do have some whiskey. We can do whiskey shots tonight if you want. It's a chill Legend Seeker stream. I'm not probably going to be writing lore live tonight, so it's okay if I indulge a little bit. If you'd like to buy a shot, just like with all the other Whiskey Fridays, it's a $50 shot, and I will toast you. I will toast you. Nope, I'm not interested in watching on Legend Seeker. Oh, no, I'm sorry to hear that, Lynn Green. But you should. It's a good time. 4D Viking, good luck getting any women to admit their... Yes, that is very difficult. It's very difficult. Believe me, I work with several women who are very stubborn and refuse to admit wrongdoing. No names being mentioned here. But yeah, so we'll have a lot of more stuff coming up on the Legend Seeker side of things, and then as that progresses, eventually we'll do some cooler stuff. I know we have in the works. We want to actually build a character on screen for you guys, kind of show you what it looks like, and then oh, well, I can't tell the difference, Chrysanth and Lynn, okay? It doesn't show me which chat you're talking on. I'm using the Restream chat filter right now, and it just shows you all with a YouTube icon, so I don't actually know which channel that you're on. But yeah, so we're going to build a character live for you. What I really want to push for you guys, as we're talking about stuff tonight, and you guys get to ask your questions, and, you know, I get to answer what your thoughts and concerns and hopes might be for this game that I'm producing for you guys. I do have a Patreon as well. And we are continue to be in this sort of critical spot where we've got really good support. But the artwork is just like really bottlenecked. It's our biggest expense and slowest production aspect of the book. I feel like we're making really strong headway on the writing, but the production end of it, with the art and covers and things like that, is just really where it's very behind in that aspect. So if you have any interest in supporting the project at all, you should check out our Patreon. We have tiers as low as $5 all the way up to the Mythic tier, which is $250, and everything in between. So you can find kind of your comfortable spot where you'd like to support. You get to see the stuff that we're doing before anybody else. Like, for example, we just released the first stat block for one of the races in Legend Seeker. So people are getting to see kind of what a racial stat block will look like now, what the subtypes are. And the one we released is the Soul Forged, and it's a Legend Seeker setting original race. We wanted to put one of those out there at the forefront to give you guys not only a look at what the stat block looks like, but introduce you to the setting in a cool way by getting to see one of those characters. But yeah, you get to see all of this stuff first, the lore, the system mechanics, and when things start happening for the playtests, if you're a supporter, you're going to be among the first who actually gets to play the game. So that's, and of course, we're kind of going in like a funnel method. So Mythic and Gold members will kind of get their hands on these things first. They'll give us their feedback. We'll be like, thank you. Then we're going to move it down to Silver, open that up a little bit more, almost kind of like an alpha beta type funnel for the game. And then eventually it'll open up to Copper 2. Usually if it's a new category, something like, I don't know, racial stats or a class reveal or something like that, the first one, kind of the premiere of that category, will open up to the whole Patreon, so everybody can see a to get a look at what it's going to be like, but then like the rest of them will kind of release in the funnel order. So yeah, right now supporting the Patreon is huge. It makes a really big difference for what we're doing. You can go try it for free. Silver and gold have 7-day free trials, so you can take a look around, kind of poke and kick the tires a bit, and decide if you do want to support this, if it's something that it catches your eye. And if you like what you're seeing, you can hang around and listen, we got some really cool stuff in there. I think you guys are really going to like what we're putting out. I'm getting, the closer we get, the more excited I get, and I can't wait. With the long-term goal of not just getting this game out to you guys, but once the system is in what I consider like a playable state, and it's like, I'm pretty confident it's in a solid place, minus some tweaks or whatever, I'm going to want to actually do a show set in the Legend Seeker universe on maybe a Moonskull. If not a Moonskull, then on the Legend Seeker channel itself. I'm going back and forth on how I want to handle that. But either way, yes, I would like to do a Legend Seeker stream, and not just like show off the system, but show off the setting too. So actually take the players through an adventure in the world of Erudia, and yeah, see what they can do with it. Oh, you would go for the Saffreed. You know, that makes sense. That makes sense. You irritate the sinuses, Chrysanth, we shall say. Hail, the Mystery 809. Good to see you out there. Scroll up and say hello to some other folks who popped in here. What's going on, Sai? Joji? Joji? Johi? Joji? Johi, Johi, Joji, Johi, Johi, Joji. I don't know which one you prefer there, but as you said, sup. 4D Viking, what's up, man? Hello. Lore writing is always better with whiskey. You're not wrong on that, actually. I do like to have a little whiskey as I write as well. So I don't know. If I was writing, you know, maybe a drink or two wouldn't be so bad, but not like my gaming streams. That's I could not write in that state. Will Sevi be a cast member for the Legend Seeker stream? Oh, I don't know. That's still a ways down the road. If it was happening right now, I'd say probably not. Not for any other reason than she's booked. I don't think she has any room to do anything else at this point. So, but yeah, whatever happens down the road, I don't know. It would just depend on where everybody's at and who's available and who's interested, that sort of thing. What is the time frame being thought of on that stream? That's going to depend on a number of things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show off how to build a character and show what that looks like. And then we got to do a little bit of internal playtesting. Because we're just now getting to the point where things are pretty cohesive. We've got most of our edges. We've got a very large portion of our spells. The classes are in their sort of alpha state. And I have just filled out like all of the character or the racial stats. So we're really just now having the actual pieces to play with. So it's a little bit of internal testing, a little bit of, you know, like I said, through the Patreon, showing you guys what's up. And getting feedback. Feedback is huge. It helps us progress a lot. So those of you who are Patreon supporters, please, 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 please leave feedback. I try to respond to it when I can, but I do read all of it. So please check out the stuff and actually give us feedback on it, because we take that into account, and it really does help us move things along too. Because then we get a feel for what you're liking, and if there is a mistake, a lot of times you guys help us catch it early. And a lot of you know, design choices and what have you can greatly change over time based on your feedback. So at the end of the day, yes, I want it to be a system that I enjoy, because I'm making the game, you know, to emulate the sort of things that I've always wanted all my games to be. But also we're making it for you guys, so it's got to be enjoyable and appealing to you as well. You know, otherwise, what's the point? So your feedback is crucial. It's absolutely crucial. So we're going to show you that. We'll probably do some more reveals on like the classes and things like that. We'll start putting out some videos on the Legend Seeker channel. So like class videos and creature videos and things like that that are kind of a little bit more polished and produced and are kind of showing off the universe and the setting and the system a bit. But once we've got a better idea of how those pieces are working together, then we can start thinking about, okay, when do we want to do this stream to start showing things off. So time frame to be determined. It's a matter of how much is left on the writing side to accomplish. So yeah. Those effing spells. What's wrong with the spells, Chrysanth? Don't want to paste any more of them somewhere. Frost was having fun writing the Mum lore. I haven't got to watch the Frost written from yesterday. I hate it when I miss them because sometimes I don't even get to catch up. I just get like the shorthand version from him, and I like actually seeing the whole process because it's a lot of fun. I like watching him kind of work through it, and I pick up little details that I might not in his like shorthand recap to me. I wish I would have watched that one because I know that was right after I dumped all the class stats on Moss and on Frost to look at, as well as the racial entries for the Mums and the racial entries for the Soulforged. I haven't sent them the racial stuff for the others yet, but we've got I can talk about some of that stuff with you guys though. So we've got a lot of things going on in the book. So what are your questions though? While I'm talking about this stuff, do you guys have anything like questions about the system itself? Maybe there's some details that have been vague, perhaps I haven't elaborated on yet, or you haven't seen me elaborate on, that you've been wondering. I'll be happy to answer those. But we've got several classes, obviously. We've got the warrior, we have our rogue. You almost deleted that email. You didn't realize it was me. What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. What email? The Legend Seeker email with the race in it? Oh, well, I'm glad you didn't do that. Oh no, the spell. Oh, that's right, the spell. Yeah, okay. I'm glad you didn't delete that. What was I saying? We have the warrior, we have the ranger, the rogue. We have our own version and spin of the monk called the Saren monk, which is sort of a telekinetic martial artist badass type class. We have paladins, clerics. We have a witch/warlock class. It uses the same structure as spellcasters, but you flavor yourself slightly differently, whether you lean more towards witch or warlock. And witches have to be female, warlocks have to be male. And then we have the wizard. Oh man, I feel like I'm missing something. I'm definitely missing something. I don't know which one I skipped over, but we have a lot of classes there. Races, we have your typical fantasy stuff. You know, we've got elves and dwarves and several variants thereof. We've got gnomes, we've got small folk, which are kind of similar to your hobbit or kind of halfling fantasy roleplay. Lizard folk are playable, and then we have the Soulforged, which are unique to our setting. They're sort of rock golems with souls trapped in them from a period of time where a god had turned against all the other gods, and there was a big war, and he had made these avatars of stone and tricked this civilization of people to lend him their souls to fuel these things and promise them eternal life and all these things that turned out to be just a big trick. And so they got tricked into becoming these stone servants for him, these kind of stormtroopers for him, the face of his armies. And then when the whole war resolved and he got locked away in his prison, his extra-dimensional prison, the god's name is Grix. That's the guy, actually, if you look at the screen right here, the dragon behind me with the fiery spectacles, that is Grix. So he gets imprisoned, and the elves have engineered a way to free the Soulforged from their ties to Grix, but does not help them figure out a way to go back to their previous form. So they're left wandering in these stone forms, knowing what they did when they didn't really have controls of themselves, knowing what the world thinks of them, and trying to find a place and purpose. So they're pretty cool. They've got two variant forms. The Warforged version, which is more of kind of a frontline soldier, and then you've got the spell forged one, which is got kind of like crystals and runes grafted into the stone structure of it to allow it to focus the mana stream and be more like of a spell caster, more engineered for that at least. Then we got the mums, which are sort of a plant people, and they've got several varieties, and they're really cool. They don't speak; they only talk through scent. They have 2 core languages. They have one called mum scent, which is a combination of scents and pollens and kind of like vibrations of their leaves and stuff that only other mums can pick up and understand, and they can speak very fluidly that way. And then they have what they call common scent, which is just sort of a spore cloud that they put out that can convey basic emotions and thoughts to those who are not mums, so they can still communicate, but it's more limited. But anybody who has the ability to smell is able to communicate with a mum that way. Steph thought she was leveling. Yes, she did. But boy, was she wrong. Maybe she should have been in a QA chat at some point. Echo Knight? Yeah, okay, Mystery 809. If I ever did an Echo Knight style of subclass or whatever in Legend Seeker, it would be, I will fix what they tried to do. You should go into spells and momentum. You've talked about them before, but only on the Legend Seeker channel. Okay, I can talk about that. Yes, they are smelly plants. That's true. A race of chrysanths. And they're called mums, and there's a colloquialism in Erudia of mum is the word, because mums don't speak. So when you say mum is the word, you're saying silent. Keep your lips sealed. Say nothing. But yeah, so let's see. Spells and momentum. So, I mean, spells is a pretty obvious concept. But the way we're running our spells is stylistically differently than something like Pathfinder or D&D. You don't have a bunch of spell slots, and they're all leveled spell slots of like, this is a level 1 spell, 2 spell, whatever. As you level up, you will take individual powers. So for example, we'll just say Fireball. And you have sort of this, we call it a power suite, but think of it as a suite of cards in your hand, and you put copies of that spell into your hand when you level up. So you could take a copy, let's say a wizard, you get 5 spells or something when you level up. You could take a copy of Fireball, a copy of Counterspell, another copy of Fireball, a copy of, I don't know, what's another wizard spell? Grease, and a copy of Major Illusion, right? You could have a suite of hands like that, and then you would play it, figuratively speaking, and you're more of kind of like a spell slinger. And after about a minute passes, those spells return to your hand that you have played, or if you roll a natural 20, they all come back up to your hand. Cantrips immediately come back up to your hand, and you could even go all in. If you want to just launch fireballs left and right, you can get 5 fireballs. And then the spells are in the individual spell itself tiered. So the higher that you roll, the spell actually becomes more powerful. So your spells grow with you over time. So a fireball, for example, if you succeed at least the base level of casting it, might do 66. So you roll your 15, and that's good enough to get the 66. You throw it out there, and it blows stuff up. But if you roll a 20 or above, that might increase to 8d6, or maybe the circumference of the area it covers increases. If you roll a 25 or higher, then it goes to the 10d6 or whatever. So like basically the spell escalates the higher you roll, and you roll higher more consistently when you level. So eventually over time, your spell will have a better bottom line. So it kind of levels up with you, and that's kind of the idea that we were going with the spells on that. And With that mechanic, it's given us some room to do a lot of cool things with other spells that can kind of manipulate those statistics. Or as far as like the hand sweep thing, some of the subclasses will play with that. So for example, imagining that power suite in your hand of cards, there is so Arintha is the goddess of fate. And if you are a cleric of Arintha, you can actually kind of manipulate your hand by taking a foresight power, which would normally just be used for kind of foretelling the future, and then a few individual copies of other spells, and you can, as you're fighting, play a you can play a far-seeing spell to retrieve a spell you've already played, almost like you saw the future, right? And you were able to have these spells prepared without even knowing you had them prepared, type of thing. So a lot of really cool like mechanics that you wouldn't see from a traditional spell system because we've structured it differently. Erudite would nerf the Echo Knight to the ground, yes. Erudite will break it worse. No, I will fix it. If I ever do that sort of thing at all. I'm so soured on that class, I don't even know if I'd want to tackle the concept, but I could fix it. Chrysanth would have to produce scent louder and slower. That is true. That is true. Oh, interesting. Stallingers? I don't know how to pronounce it, but that sounds really cool. It's an interesting race. On the flip side of that, you have the martial classes, right? So you have classes like warrior or monk, or the ranger or the rogue, kind of these like barbarians. Oh, that's the class I missed earlier, was the barbarian. I wanted to make them a little bit more dynamic, so it's not just every turn you swing your axe and then you swing your axe again, and hey, look, I swing my axe a third time. I wanted to give martial classes some things to do. So we have come up with something called momentum, and as you're fighting, when you meet certain conditions, you'll earn momentum. And you have basically 4 momentum points that you can earn, and then you can spend those points to do special maneuvers. So for example, for the barbarian, I actually think I have, let me pull this up. I can give you a real example and not just make one up off the top of my head here. Where did I put the barbarian? Probably barbarian class. Here we go. So for example, the barbarian class, the ways you earn momentum is if you score something called a heavy hit. That's where if you exceed, so if you're attacking your opponent and their reflex defense is say 10, if you go 5 above that twice, so say you get a 20, that is a heavy hit, and that itself doesn't do anything, but is a classification. And a lot of different things in the system react to heavy hits or enhance a heavy hit, or when you do a heavy hit, X happens. In this case, if you score a heavy hit on something, you gain a momentum. If you score a critical hit, you get 2 momentum. And when you reduce an enemy to 0 HP, you get 2 momentum. So if you do any of those 3 things, your barbarian gains a momentum. And then you have a chart of things you can spend that momentum on. So for example, for 1 momentum, the barbarian can use its knockback ability. You add knockback to a melee attack. The target must, if your attack exceeds the target's fortitude defense, they are pushed 10 feet away. Or for example, there is a feel no pain momentum option. So you can spend 2 of your momentum and reduce damage from an incoming melee or ranged attack by 1d6 per character rank. So whether you're a novice or what have you. So that was just a way, so as you're playing, you get cooler and more dynamic things to do, and each martial class has its own way to earn momentum and spends it to play in a certain style. So a monk will have different ways to earn its momentum, and their momentum table to spend that momentum on will be different. They'll get to do like cool telekinetic and like key and martial arts things. rogues might get in some like dastardly strikes or be able to move out of the way without taking attacks of opportunity, things like that. So it really just kind of styles kind of adds a little bit more dynamic to being a martial character and lets you do some really cool stuff. So that is what Momentum is. And so I'm pretty excited about that as well. And also, when you're building your classes, we have talent trees. And so every odd level, you pick a new talent from whatever class you're leveling into. And those talents can give like normal stuff, like increased defenses or give you perks with certain weapons or whatever. But there are a few talents that also are like, when you take that talent is added onto your momentum table. So it's like a new thing you can do with your momentum. So really cool stuff. I think you guys will like that a lot. So thank you for that, Chrysanth. If that's your first time hearing about momentum or how we do our spells, it might be easier too to see exactly what I'm talking about if you support us on Patreon. We have those entries for you to read. So you can actually go look at the Barbarian, the Druid, and I believe the Noble classes. Oh, I didn't say Noble either. Those classes are currently on display in their alpha versions for you guys to read and give us feedback on. And I really do appreciate the feedback. I know I see, especially on the Discord side, a lot of you have left some feedback on the classes in particular. Not as much on the other stuff, but I did see some feedback on the classes. I have read them, even if I haven't quite engaged yet. And I do look at that feedback, and then I go to Frost and I go to now Moss. I'm like, hey, what do you guys think about this change? Or do you think we got this right? Or has this person got a point? Or, that sort of thing. So we do discuss and take what you guys are saying into consideration as we're building this stuff. Is there anything like a bag of holding in this game? Of course. There are a lot of magic items in this game. That is one of the many things we'll be fleshing out in sort of the kind of later stages. But yeah, there's definitely going to be something akin to that. It's a kind of a Mary Poppins bag type item. It's just common sense for this kind of world. If you're going to be looting, surely some wizard has to have invented that kind of item at some point. Yeah. Fantastic Sarcastic. How are you handling the estranged relationship between the gods and the world when it comes to clerics after the God Killer War? That's a good question. So there is a lot going on there. It's very complex because the people still fear the gods. The gods are very powerful. But before the God Killer War and during it, the gods walked among men. They were literally on the godlands with them, and they were a part of everyday life, and their wrath was very real. It was right there in front of your face. And gods had nothing to fear from mortals. There was nothing a mortal could ever do to a god. They are invincible. They are immortal. And just so supreme in their power that no mortal could ever stand toe-to-toe with them. But then when Grix uncovers this secret information, this special energy that this keeper that he found in this old keeper shrine, that he tricked or conned into giving him this information. How do you kill a god? How do you unmake a god? And when Grix learns this information, his dragon breath ability, he kind of envelops this power, this energy in that dragon breath, and it allows him to then unmake gods. He can actually kill gods with his breath weapon ability. And so that's what triggers the God Killer War, is he accidentally, thinking that he was going to kill a different god named Vulcan, actually kills his would-be lover, Senna. And her death sparks the God Killer War. And so it becomes this whole thing of, okay, now there is something out there that can kill gods. But at that point, that's only in Grix's hands. So he's the threat. And at the end of the war, the gods and the people, they end up winning, and they lock Grix away in this extra dimensional prison. But because that prison was made by the gods and by the energies of the Mana Stream, and the energy inside of Grix is separate and anti-conductive to both of those, it can't be trapped in there in its raw form, and it sort of explodes, and shards of his power rain all over Erudia. So you can actually find fragments of this energy, this breath weapon energy, that can then be forged into weapons. So now mortals actually do have weapons that can harm gods. They're really hard to find. They're ancient. They're powerful artifacts. Um, Extremely rare, but they exist. So now gods are in danger, even walking among their own people. So not wanting to have to face that ever again, they create their own pocket dimensions, and now they all have their own domains, and they have kind of separated themselves from the world at hand. They're still present. They still have emissaries and ways to interact with the world. Obviously, they can influence things, but they are not accessible in the way they used to be. And people still revere them. They still fear them. They still serve them. They still believe in them, obviously. But they don't have that direct connection like they used to, unless you're like a really high level cleric or paladin or something like that. And certainly there are some that scorn them, right? They think of the gods as these arrogant beings that play with mortal lives like they're toys, and they kind of do. So they're not wrong in that respect. The only god who still walks among mortals freely, and of her own free will, is Kika, and that is the goddess of trickery and mischief. And she will frequently go among mortals and play tricks on them, and like a modern day problem might be, why do my socks keep disappearing? That equivalent of a thing in Erudia would be called must have been touched by Kika or blessed by Kika's touch or something like that. So if things go awry or disappear, it's always kind of blamed on her because she's still sort of out there. And she believes that there's still, good people, that there's possibility someday of redeeming Grix because that is her twin brother. And so she stays out there in the world trying to bring things back to the way they were at some point, while also keeping some joy and delight in the world. So yeah, it's a complicated dynamic, but it is a different world where the mortals are for the first time really just kind of on their own and building their own stuff without direct god interference and telling them what to do. And so that kind of like 1300 years between the God Killer War and the gods retreating has been tumultuous. Races with longer memories still remember the God Killer War freshly, and the races who are shorter lived, like humans, have forgotten some of the lessons and sort of started delving into things they shouldn't. And there's a whole host of other things besides the gods and just their story. You've got the undergods, you've got devils, demons, vampires, otherworldly beings, creatures from the Fey realm of Canadia, and things like that. So there's a lot of other aspects too. The gods are a very big lore part. They really set up where the world's at, but there's so much more to explore the world than just the gods and their lore. You fight mine and history. Well, listen, gnolls are double jointed. Your feedback on that is just wrong. Gnolls are double jointed, and that is just the end of the story. Mystery 809 says, interesting. Always was curious how to spice up the melee class. Always think of Tales of Symphonia for spicing up melee classes. So curious to see your version. Yeah, I do. I think there is a certain kind of person that likes to play a martial class. But even then, they don't want to be a spellcaster. I get that. They don't want that type of complexity. But it might be nice to have at least, a little bit of freshness behind what they do, to give them some variety in the cool stuff that they can try to pull off. And I just think a momentum system like that, where they're kind of vying and being strategic and earning this momentum and spending it wisely, just gives them an extra dynamic without being so complicated that it's something like a intense spell system. Yes, behold the god that bleeds. Beep, beep. Yes, Kika goes in disguise as Lady Nova when she's in her mortal form. And we did finish the full Pantheon now. So I know I released the full the early Pantheon for basically everybody to take a look at and just get a feel for what's going on. But a few more gods have been added, rounding out the roster. So you guys want to read about them too. They're pretty cool. They're pretty interesting. Yes, her shrines and her pranks are a lot of fun. She's a really cool god. I like Kika a lot. Grix is obviously really cool. Arintha is a favorite of mine. And each of the gods kind of have their various forms and distinct images and domains, and more artwork will be coming out from them. So the artwork, I don't know what you guys think of what you've seen so far of artwork. If you think we're doing a pretty good job with that, if you're enjoying the pieces you've seen. But we've got more of that coming slowly. Hopefully, as the Patreon grows, we can get that out quicker. And then we've got Justin Gerard on board. Really cool guy, very well-known artist. He's going to be doing the art for one of our gods named Mordecai. That's our god of the underworld of death. So he's going to be doing the art for him, and I'm really pumped for that. And then we've also licensed a few pieces from him as well. So that's a pretty big name that we've brought to the book. I'm telling you, this guy's really well known. He's done a lot of stuff. He's worked on basically every major tabletop role-playing game brand to make covers, to make monsters, to make scenes. He's been on like Magic the Gathering cards. His artwork's been featured. I think he even did some Hearthstone art at some point. Yeah, he is very well known. So I'm really honored, but also excited, that he said, yeah, I'll do some art for Legend Seeker. I think that's really cool. Oh, you would think that, Chrysanth. You would. Fallister would like Davila. That is for sure. Hedonism, seduction, and revenge. I mean, what a domain. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't like that? Not me. I am pure as the driven snow. But outside of me, who wouldn't like a domain like that? Any other questions you guys might have? Whether it be about mechanics, settings, or the setting, I should say. Plans for what we're putting out, roadmaps, things like that. Listen, I said that I'm pure as the driven snow, the Mystery 809. Don't let Chrysanth and her lies corrupt my perfect and pure image, okay? She is a liar and a gypsy. You can never trust a gypsy. I really like the noble class a lot. I think if I were to get the opportunity to play my own game as a player, the very first class I would want to play as is the noble. I really think it's a interesting class. It also uses momentum, but in a very different way. You're using a lot of like skills and intimidation and persuasion to like alter the state of the battlefield and the people you're fighting, and it's just really neat. I definitely want to give that class a spin. Why am I a Muppet? I'm not. I don't remember who. Oh, you want to know why I'm a quote unquote Muppet? Because Chrysanth. That's really all you need to know. She's all the worst memes of my life. She started, and then they stuck. I don't know what it is about that gypsy, but her memes are always the ones that stick and never go away. I don't remember. Was it you or Frost who came up with Zanatha and the Wizards? How did that happen? What do you mean by how did that happen? But it was me. I had some ideas of like some bizarre. Well, first off, I wanted a good idea of where some things in the world came from besides the gods, and I wanted some wizard orders, and you got to have at least one good villainous kind of gray area wizard order that the others sort of shun and on the surface are like really bad, but also they're kind of right about some stuff. So that's where the Gilded Veil, the Brotherhood of the Gilded Veil, is what you're talking about, is the wizards who were in Zanatha. So there were some things I wanted to explain where they came from, why they exist, and in a way that's kind of different from the lore of other games, like the Oozes, for example. Oozes are a part of the experiments. So this Brotherhood of the Gilded Veil, they are an order of wizards who really seek power. a lot of it, and they're always looking for ways to make bigger and better and more potent spells, and really just and they're seeking not just knowledgement but empowerment, or not just knowledge but also empowerment. And so the leader of this brotherhood also had the belief that the gods, they weren't all they were cracked up to be, that they were simply beings that found more power and weren't willing to share it, and that if mortals put in the effort, they could be gods too, with simple experimentation, with magic, with this setting's version, I guess, of science. There is a pathway to being just as powerful, if not more powerful, than a god. And so that was kind of his foundation of this brotherhood, and he started kind of seducing all these other wizards to join him on this. And the wizards of the main orders of the towers, they are totally against this. They don't think it is wise to try to play God or to tempt fate by challenging the gods. And there's a lot of darker magics that the Brotherhood would get involved in, a lot of shadier practices and uses of magic that are more forbidden in the towers, and they keep a more controlled and like ethical handle on, that the Brotherhood just really didn't want to adhere to. So they made these stations, these temples in the jungles of Zanatha, where they did a lot of experiments. So a lot of the aberrations of the world come from the Brotherhood. A lot of the nasty weapons that were used in the war came from the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood, the Gilded Veil, is an order of wizards that everybody likes to look down on and talk nasty about and say how unethical they are, but still kind of purchase their stuff, right? So both sides are like, nah, we don't want to officially side with the Brotherhood. We don't want to have an association with them, but we will buy their trinkets. We will buy their war weapons. We will ask them to experiment on this thing to help us tackle this problem over here. So the Brotherhood played a lot in the war of selling these magical creatures and artifacts and experiments and stuff to both sides of the war. And so some of these oozes, for example, and like the gelatinous pyramids and things like that, those are all things that the Brotherhood concocted for one side or the other to use in the war. And one of those things that came from it is the mums. So the mums is one of the playable races in this setting, and they are kind of a plant-like sentient species, and there's a wide variety of them, and they were created by the wizards. But eventually, at some point, and nobody has the concrete story of what happened, something went really wrong in Zanatha, and there was a magical, like, for now, we'll just call it an explosion. We'll explore that more later. But something really bad happened there, and the wizards wiped themselves out, and their experiments all broke loose. So in the jungles of Zanatha, there are wild-ass creatures in there. There's, we got the Velociraptors, which are like these half wasp, half raptor creatures, and all sorts of other things lurking in this jungle. And the mums were among those, and they were a sentient kind of plant species that they made to be like these warriors that could be used in a similar way to the Soul Forged. But they never got that far, and the mums had their own independence and the ability to reproduce, and they kind of went out in the world and did their own thing, and they're all about preservation. And they eventually rebelled against their masters and freed themselves and things. So, like, they're really cool, and there's a lot of stuff that happened over there. There's a lot of lore alone just in that sector of the world with the Brotherhood. Yes, pretty much. Yeah, the Mystery 809. Those wizards were trying to be like the party in Frostmaiden. That's about right. Well, Chrysanth, if the truth hurts, maybe the shoe fits, and you should think about that. You know what I remember about Erudite? Wow, the Mystery 809. Just wow. How did I think of that? I don't know how to answer that. It's just a lot of the way that I write my stories is I have like plots and stories that I want to tell, and I think what can I do to tell those stories? But then also sometimes I'm just thinking about the world, and I'm like, okay, I want to put this thing in it, but why is it there, and how does it get there? And then I start kind of building the pieces around it. Um, so yeah, so like things like oozes and aberrations and things that weren't necessarily created by the gods themselves, where the hell did they come from? And so that is something I thought about. These like things that both sides get from the war. Um, where are they getting them from? And also kind of wanted to have a jungle region with really strange, wild ass shit in it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's not something I don't know how to say how I came up with it, but it's just in the writing process. Those things were created and answered a lot of the needs of the setting that we were building. Um, and there's still a lot more. I mean, there is a lot of setting to build, and Frost is doing a really good job of taking the things that I give him, and I give him kind of this like, here is the concept, right? This is the underworld. This is what the Fey area is like. This is what the core continent of the Godlands is like. Here's this organization. I give him the structure of it, the basic idea, and then he is just able to flesh that out and bring it to life and kind of interweave it across the world and come up with cities and civilizations and organizations that work with these lore details. I think we make a really good team. So I think you guys are going to like, in particular, the setting guide and all the details that come with that. It was very important to me when I set out to do this. I didn't just want to make a system. There are so many people who just make a system, and it's another retro D20 clone. And you might call mine that if you want. It is a D20 system. I believe we've done a lot to really jazz it up and make it a little bit more fun and exciting. But it's not going to be just a system. So many people produce just a system, and then you end up with the system and no world to play it in. It's just all on the DM, right? To homebrew it, and not everybody is a homebrewer. And that's just the truth of things. And I think these systems, they just kind of fail. They sit on a desk somewhere, gathering dust after they've done the Kickstarter, and nobody plays them because they don't have any connection to anything. There's nothing for them to bring to life or introduce people to. It's hard. It's hard to just get people to buy strictly into a system. It helps a lot to have a setting and stories and images and things for them to look at and connect to and read, to get a new player invested. The system itself rarely is going to be what sells a new player that you're trying to bring into tabletop role-playing games. What's going to sell them is a concept they can believe in and tie to and relate to, and that's going to be a lot of the story. So I wanted to make sure that we provide a one-stop shop solution, that if you're currently a Pathfinder player, you're a D&D player, if you're a whatever player, you can move over and have a whole sandbox already for you. You've got the system's there. You've got the lore. You've got a monster manual. You've got all of the pieces in place, a living, breathing world, and even a starter adventure, which is what Moss is going to be working on. So it was very important to me that we have a setting to go out with the system. I don't want it to be just, hey, look, we reskinned all of the classic classes from 5e or Pathfinder, and we altered a few names of stats. Here's a new system for you. I actually want it to be something that you sit down and you show people and they're like, wow, the God Killer War is really awesome. The concept of this brotherhood is really fucking sweet. I want to be my character's goal is to uncover the secrets of this brotherhood, because he thinks they're kind of right. Because while they got a nasty reputation and they've done a lot of vile things, maybe they're not wrong. Maybe the gods are arrogant. Maybe they are withholding power from the people. I want to find those secrets. It gives a lot of different things for people to explore, and I think that is vital to a role-playing game. Mechanics, they need to be good, and yes, they're important, but they kind of don't do anything if you don't have something to use them on. It's terrifying how well I work with Frost. Why is that terrifying, Chrysanth? I don't get it. Oh, God. What is wrong with you people? I don't recall this ever happening. I don't think it's a real event. I think you guys are making it up. Never knew anything about any corn. Somebody said they were interested in the noble class. Who said that? We really need an Erudite and Metatron on stream together. Oh, it was Lynn. Lynn was interested in the noble class. What were you curious about with the noble class, Lynn? Well, did you have questions specifically about it? What else can I tell you guys? It's a D20 system. We're using talent trees rather than going with subclasses. So you essentially just kind of build your own subclass. Edges are kind of similar to feats. And spells we kind of talked about. I do like the condition track system that Star Wars Saga Edition had, so we're kind of bringing that into it. I like having more than just hit points as an option, as a way to take down a person. I think there should be multiple ways to attack an enemy, and you can build a strategy around that. So just like some monsters can drain your core ability scores, like strength and dex and stuff, there are also things that can attack your condition tree specifically, and maybe that's a faster route to them taking you down than going through your hit points. And then oh god, I just lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Crap, I just lost my train of thought there. What was I just saying, Chrysanth? I read something else at the same time as I was speaking, and then I lost what I was saying. Oh, somebody's messaging me. Damn it, I don't know what I was saying, but that's okay. So the condition track is something we added. We bring back the core defenses of reflex, will, and fortitude, rather than having just one armor class type thing. And then we want to make monsters more dynamic too. So on the DM side, we're really working on making the monsters feel more like unique individual creatures with their own core mechanics that make them a unique experience to fight, versus than just being a blob of stats that gets bigger as their level goes up, with maybe one or two abilities that change them slightly. We want them to actually feel like something that is interesting to fight. In general, what does it do different from a warrior? Oh, okay, the noble class. So the noble class, I'll kind of read you the write-up I did for it. So the noble, a regal human woman traveling with her entourage, encounters a dutiful gate guard who blocks her path. With a calm gesture and the glint of her signet ring catching the sunlight, she invokes the authority of her noble lineage. The guard, subdued by her presence, swiftly grants them passage, fearing the repercussions of delaying such an esteemed noble. Then it goes to another example. Amidst a tense standoff, a wise and stone-willed dwarven merchant assesses the situation. Realizing the outnumbered thugs of the guild master that they were sent to confront, or realizing that they outnumber the thugs of the guild master they were about to confront, he seizes the opportunity for a peaceful resolution. With a commanding voice, he demands their surrender, assuring them a safe departure. The thugs, facing insurmountable odds, relinquish their weapons, swayed by the persuasive tactics of the noble dwarf. And then the third example was surrounded by an encroaching horde of undead. The audacious elven revolutionary steps forward, firing a wild crossbow shot at the necromancer commanding the army of darkness. The bolt finds its mark, knocking the dark wizard off his perch and causing a ripple of uncertainty among the mindless undead. Capitalizing on this momentary disruption, the elven noble rallies his allies with an inspiring cry, invigorating their spirits and emboldening them to break through the ranks of the undead. So it's very much a class that is an expert not only on the battlefield in combat, but in the social battlefield. They are enormously useful to have on your side in a social conflict where you're having to persuade people of something, or open up avenues for connections, or that sort of thing. And then in combat, they're kind of a support class, so they have the ability to really influence the battlefield. using certain abilities to get to kind of debuff your enemies or convince them to surrender or cause them to flee temporarily. Um, so it's kind of a manipulation battlefield support class, I would say, is the best. Where are the parts of okay, I'll answer that one in just a second. And they use momentum as well. So for example, so the nobles, they have I want to see if I need to explain the other part first before I read this. Okay, I don't. All right. So the noble, they gain momentum by doing things that are a little bit more social. So for example, they generate momentum when an enemy fails against a persuasion, intimidation, or demoralize action that you take in combat. So if you do like an intimidation against them or something and it beats their will save or their will defense, you'll gain a momentum. If you resist an intimidation, persuasion, or demoralize action, you gain a momentum. If you use the help action to help someone else on their talent or skills, and that succeeds, then you'll gain a momentum. Or if you successfully stagger, disarm, or disable a foe using one of your class talents or combat maneuvers, you gain momentum for that as well. And then the things you can spend momentum on to kind of give you an idea of what a noble can do. Inspiring directive. You can spend momentum to grant an ally within 30 feet of you 1d4 to their next attack roll or saving throw. Well, I got to rewrite that because we don't really have our. We're moving away from the concept of a saving throw, so it'll probably be attack roll or skill check. And then undermine resolve, 1 momentum, force an enemy within 30 feet to or make. So I got to rephrase this too. Roll against an enemy's will defense within 30 feet. On a success, they suffer minus 1d4 to their rolls during their turn. So kind of like an individual targeted bane. So it's that kind of thing. There's a few more. I don't want to reveal them all because we haven't opened up this class to everybody to see, but I'm just kind of giving you an idea of how they work. And then their talent trees focus around a core skill that they call an opening gambit. And that opening gambit at the very start of combat can really set the stage for how the battle's going to go. So I will read that to you. As an action at the start of combat, before initiative is rolled, you may deliver a sharp address or commanding challenge. Choose a number of enemies equal to your heroic proficiency modifier. Make a persuasion or intimidation check versus each of their will defenses. For each success, reduce that enemy's initiative by 5 and gain 1 momentum. If you succeed by 2 or more, the enemy also starts combat shaken for 1 round. So basically, you can kind of rebuff or intimidate or inspire at the beginning of that combat, and you can lower the enemy's initiative, giving your side a bit of an upper hand. So it's a very interesting class, and I definitely want to play as a noble. I'm not going to reveal all the talent trees here, but if you happen to become a supporter, you can also, by the way, gift support. So if there is somebody out there who seems very interested in this, that you've noticed comment on it a lot, or seem like they would be interested, but they're not currently a member, who knows why they're not supporting? It could be financials or whatever. And you're like, man, that person would be very valuable to take a look at this kind of stuff. Yeah, you can gift memberships to people. So you can go to the Patreon and you can purchase a gifted membership, send it to that person, and they'll get access and get to read stuff and participate. So it's a really cool idea of a kind of just a fun gift if you want to bring somebody in on what we're doing. So like a Monster Hunter or parts of Monster Hunter, yeah. So certainly there'll be weak points, and there might be things like this specific limb is can be targeted, and here's how that works mechanically. But yeah, Chrysanth gave a good example there. So it's sort of like when you fight a giant, we want it to feel like a giant, and by that we don't just mean, oh, it's a bigger token, it has more hit points, and when it hits you, it hits hard. Yeah, technically that might feel kind of gianty, but that could literally be anything, right? You could make any monster more hit points and it hits harder, and just change the skin on it. We want it to feel like a giant specifically. What do giants do? They pick up huge freaking trees and swing them at people. So they maybe have like a sweeping attack that like covers a certain amount of like a cone space or something. If you try to restrain a giant because they're so huge, is that really going to work as well? Does difficult terrain really bother them? So if you use like an entangle spell on them, are they going to resist that mostly? Or maybe they'll have a defense against it, that kind of thing. When they're defeated, they're going to fall somewhere. You probably don't want to be anywhere near a giant when it falls forward on the ground. So things like that. We want to make the monsters feel like when you're fighting them, it is that thing that's being described, not just a block of stats. Yeah, so we're doing the talent trees will be very similar to Saga Edition Star Wars. That would be a good comparison. They'll be kind of different. They'll function in sort of the same way, and some of them will be kind of similar. But our talents, because it's a high fantasy setting, they feel different. It's not just, oh, you get a +2 to use computer or something like that. It's the talents in this will be a little bit fuller and do some interesting things that really dynamically change the way you play your class. A good example of this would be Druid. So Druids have the ability to shape change, no surprise there. But depending on which talent tree you take, the way that works and how good you are at it, or what you could do while you're wild shaping, can very much be very different. So, for example, there is a Circle of the Wild shape talent tree, and this one gives you bonuses while you're shapeshifted specifically. So one example is Predator's Grace. While shapeshifted, you get +2 to your reflex defense and may ignore difficult terrain caused by natural elements such as mud, roots, brambles, sand, snow, etc. There's one called Wild Surge, which kind of works like a second wind, a bonus second wind while you're wild shaped or shapeshifted. You can also, there's a fluid, it's called Fluid Adaptation. So once per shapeshift, you may spend an action to exchange a beast trait with another from a beast trait chart. So there's a lot of cool stuff. It's a little bit more dynamic and high fantasy style talents versus the more kind of like very stat based and kind of clinical ones that were in Star Wars. Am I getting messaged? Hold on, I need to check something real quick, and then I'll continue answering the next question. I need to make sure what I got going on. Oh, okay. All right. We'll see if we have him or not. Hopefully, we do. Okay. So let's see. How are you planning to market this outside of YouTube? That's a pretty big question. Obviously, we'll be pushing this on X. I can't really speak to that question in a lot of ways because of an NDA we signed. I will just say that there are some partnerships we hope to be making that will come with some marketing reach and incentives built in, hopefully. But outside of that, we'll be doing some ads. In fact, I just purchased a small ad campaign for the Patreon. Trying to get some eyes on that and get some support on it. We'll be talking about it on channels. If we do guest appearances on other channels, I'll be talking about them there. There's a lot that goes into it, and the closer we get, the more we'll be able to do. If the partnership that I'm hoping for doesn't work out, we're going to have to rethink our strategy in terms of how we want to launch the product. So at that point, we might be looking at something akin to a Kickstarter. But yeah, that'll be the idea, and the hope is that we'll be able to introduce Legend Seeker to other people, people who we've made inroads with and close ties to, and people within the tabletop community. Show them the game, have them play it, and show it to their friends. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to try to market something to the void, as it were. And it is something we are honing in on. Yes, no saving throws. Everything is going to be targeted against one of your core defenses. So even like poison, for example, you don't make a saving throw against poison. The poison attacks your fortitude. So if the poison is weaker, it'll have a harder time affecting you. It'll try to attack your body and your immune system, and good chance it'll fail, but it could still maybe succeed. So it's just really based on you fortifying your stats versus making a saving throw. And that'll be kind of true of most things that normally you would think of as saving throws in other systems. Will become some sort of attack against your defenses, curses, and that sort of thing. And anything that would be not something like that. So, for example, one type of saving throw that I always thought was kind of like, why does this even exist? Is the reflex saving throw from 5th edition. Isn't that just acrobatics, right? So things like that. If there's something that would require you to leap out of the way, or be swift on your feet or whatever, in that case, you would just roll the skill relevant to that, which would be acrobatics or your dexterity. There's no point in making a whole nother stat for it. So yeah, we don't really have saving throws in our game. We're probably going to run this for about another 15 minutes. So do you guys have any other questions you'd like to answer? I'm going to take a shot to you guys on this wonderful 4th of July and cheers you. But I'll take a look and see what you guys are asking here. How do you pick the feedback prompts that you give to the patrons? What do you mean by that? Like, do you mean how do I pick the selections for my book or the questions of the week? Like, what do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean by feedback prompts. Oh, the questions. So it's a little bit of just. There's two ways I look at these questions. Well, three really. One is to kind of create engagement, right? We want to talk to you guys and get you talking about the game and just really kind of generate that conversation and get some buzz and activity kind of created, because we're posting a lot of lore and a lot of stuff and not getting a lot of feedback on it. And I'd like to get more feedback. And part of that, I think, is generally speaking, getting people to start talking. So asking questions at all is sort of an approach to that. But then the questions I pick, they could just be open-ended to generate the conversation, but a lot of them have a purpose behind them. So, for example, we recently asked, in your opinion, in a high fantasy setting where there's multiple races and creatures and stuff, what does it mean to be human? And one, that's an interesting conversation to have, but also I'm, concurrently designing the human racial class entry. And so I'm kind of looking at what people think of when they think of being a human. What differentiates you as a human as opposed to an elf or a lizard folk or whatever? What is that experience? What are those mechanics of being a human being? Um, and how can I capture what people view that as in the game? So a bit of it is kind of it's a thought exercise between us and the audience, but also it's an information gathering tool for me to be like, okay, so when they think human, this is the experience they're hoping to have, or this is what they think of, and how can I capture that? Is something that I do work very hard on. So that is part of the way that I pick those prompts. So yeah, it's often it's a way to gather some information and get some feedback and kind of just stir up conversation in general, kind of knock the dust off, um, break the ice, so to speak, and get people engaged because we do want your feedback. We very much do. And we want you to be a part of the design process too, right? You guys pick the name of the setting. We gave you something like 8 names, and you guys picked Erudia. That was your choice, and that's what you guys voted for. And there's going to be more things like that. So there's going to be opportunities to help decide other aspects of the game. Like we also put a poll out for how the Moon Skulls will look, and you guys gave us your feedback on that. So we very much are of the mindset of making the game for you and including you guys in a lot of that process. Being a patron is really cool with us because it's not just getting early access to stuff. You're helping create the game. You're getting front row access and influence on what the final product's going to be when it's in your hands, which is not an opportunity you get with a lot of games. They're made in house. Your feedback isn't really considered. The game's just created, and then you get to respond to it. Oh, hey, look, it's Frost. What's going on, Frost? Honestly, I'm never sure how to respond to your prompts because I'm new to tabletop. Well, that's fine. Another thing is we want both, right? We want people who are experienced in tabletop, certainly, because that's important to know what those kinds of people, having played a lot of these games, what do you want out of this? And what have you found is best and you've enjoyed, and how do you see things? And being able to catch mistakes that we're making. But also, somebody who's never touched a tabletop game before, we want to bring new players to the industry and to the hobby. So, yes, having that fresh, I've never played tabletop newbie type person invest into the game and give their feedback is also very important because we want to put that book in a new player's hands and then be able to look at this and be like, this is awesome. I want to be a part of this community too. I want to be part of this fellowship of tabletop gaming. So yeah, no, that's good. We want feedback, even if you're new. You might have a unique perspective, right? Because you're not thinking in terms of tabletop. You might give me an answer on what it means to be human that nobody else is putting out there, and thereby could add something unique to the game that otherwise wouldn't be there. So yeah, I would never restrain yourself from engaging in the conversation just because you're new to it. Ooh, Top Gun. Yes, Top Gun Maverick. I do like some Top Gun. Excellent choice. Good 4th of July choice. You work with a Muppet. I'm not good at patronizing. Wow. Fantastic sarcastic. On the human note, Mass Effect has a line about humans having extremely diverse sets of genetic characteristics. Also, as a short-lived species, it seems like they learn more quickly than other races. Yeah, well, the Chrysanth's short's going to be probably the gnomes. That's Chrysanth's short. Yeah, I would agree with that. One of the elements for humans that I definitely hone in on, in particular, with the aftermath of the God Killer War, is because they're short lived, they have shorter memories. And with each generation of humans that goes by, they get further and further away from the feelings and understanding and impact of what the God Killer War was like. Whereas the longer lived races, like dragons and elves, some of them were still alive for that war. They remember it and they experienced it, and it means something very different to them. And their memories are much more long lived. So that's one aspect of just kind of like, what does it mean to be human and be a versatile, short-lived species that learns quick and adapts, but also has a short memory. (1776) Also a good choice. Also a good choice. Well, happy 4th of July to you, you Chad bastards, you. And to those supporting Legend Seeker or not, I appreciate all of you, and I hope that what we're doing is exciting to you. I'm going to show you a piece of artwork before we end the stream here, just to show you something different than Grix, and a few hints at some things to come. But I want to make sure to take this moment to, one, toast the country and toast the 4th of July and say happy birthday to America, but also to say how much I appreciate you guys and how I am proud and honored to have spent this afternoon with you, or this evening, I guess we should say. And I hope that you guys thoroughly enjoy what it is that ultimately comes out of this system. So cheers. Ooh, that one went down with a burn. Let me show you guys. Some of you who've already been supporters have seen this, but I'll share it with you guys here. An image of Arintha. It's a very different art piece to the one that's behind me. Let me see if I can pull her up quickly. Apparently not. And for Patreon supporters, if you're gold or mythic level, we're going to be adding something really cool here soon, and I don't want to spill the details yet. But I've been in talks with somebody, and there's a cool little thing that we're going to add, a physical reward that you'll get for having a certain amount of time supporting. I think you guys are going to like it. So keep your eyes and ears? Keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. And I think you'll be excited. It's going to be exclusive also. Something you can only get through the Patreon and won't be offered outside of that support. So it'll be something you get at the ground level and will be exclusive to you after the game has taken off. Damn it, where the hell did this art go? God, I have way too much shit in these folders. I'm digging. Here we go. Open. Oh, wow. That's, that was way bigger than I was planning. Okay. Let me fix that. So this is Arintha. And I'm just going to cover up Grix for the moment. So she's also got a dragon form. Not all the gods have dragon forms, but she is one of them that does. And she is the goddess of fate and destiny. And you can even see in the background, in her dimension, there are some moon skulls, which is an actual creature in our game. The icon of our iconic brand over here at Moonskull will actually be a monster type in the game. They're a celestial being in the heavens that bring omens and prophecies. And yeah, they do have some deep communions with Orintha herself. So definitely a different feel. Obviously, this is a very fantastical, almost Fae-touched type image as compared to the kind of darker, more foreboding image of Grix that we have over there. But I wanted to show you something that was a little bit on the different side of what part of our world looks like. So I hope that's exciting for you. We've got much, much more in the actual Patreon if you want to check it out. What's going on, Dave? You know what, Chrysanth? Nobody asked you. Literally nobody, Chrysanth. Not one person asked you. Not one. Zero, in fact. Yeah, well, if you like Grix, you're probably going to like the new Patreon perk that we're thinking up here. I was just saying that we have a new perk that we're going to be giving to Gold and Mythic members, and it's going to be something tangible, a physical item that you get for having been a supporter for X amount of time. And it'll be unique specifically to patrons. So if you're a Patreon supporter, that's the only way to get this thing. And I think you'll like it. I think you'll like it. Particularly if you like Grix. But yeah, Grix is probably my favorite, but I like them all. There's a lot of good gods. I'm really excited about Justin Gerard's rendition of Mordecai. I'm going to be extremely thrilled to bring that one to you guys when it's ready. Hey, happy 4th, Anani Moose. Yes, I just toasted to the 4th, so no, you're not too late. We are just about to wrap up, but you did not miss us for the 4th of July, and we love having you here. So yeah, please do consider, guys, it continues to be like a really crucial period for us for this game. If you could support any one thing for me, if you're like, Arudai, how can I support you best? This is probably the single most important thing to me. We have a lot of work still yet to do, particularly in the art department, and it is our biggest bottleneck. So having supporters on the Patreon is really huge. It's really huge. And we've got everything from the copper tier, common tier, which is $5, on up to the mythic tier. And so you can find what level of support is right for you. You'll eventually be able to play tests, and you get more access to more previews and more things the higher up you go, obviously. And some of those later rewards even come with some extra bonuses. For example, if you're a mythic member, which is our highest tier, it is definitely the more expensive one. It's $250. But if you go in that kind of a high level investment support tier, after 6 months of support, you'll get an actual character made for you in the game, like a lore character, a significant NPC that has significant repercussions or impact to the game, may show up in adventures, things like that, be part of the history. And you'll have a hand in designing that character with us. And then, of course, we're going to be adding a new reward here very soon that I'm excited to reveal, but we're not quite ready to reveal it yet. And yes, as Christian said, you can gift support as well. So if you know somebody that you would like to give the gift of a Legend Seeker membership to support the game more, but also give other people access and get them excited for the game as well, you can go to our Patreon and gift you can gift those members. So I think that's gonna wrap us, guys. So thanks for hanging out. I hope you guys had a wonderful 4th of July and a holiday, and that you celebrated it in the way that is best for you. And I'm ever so thankful that you chose to spend some of it here with me. I'll see you guys tomorrow night for Star Wars. Other than that, I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.